is an absolutely fascinating case. It's a case from Queensland, and it's a case about where a low-level supervisor committed an offence. The picture is a picture of a bridge in a suburb called Ripley, which is west of Brisbane, Queensland. And in this case, what happened was that bridge was constructed in about 1980, and when they constructed the bridge, they poured cement into a framework, and the panels within the framework were made of asbestos sheeting. And when the cement set, the panels bonded with the cement, and the external skin of those horizontal panels that you can see had asbestos sheeting bonded to them. So you had a core of concrete with a skin of the sheeting. Now, a truck was driving along this road, hit that bridge, and damaged the bridge. So it was necessary for the bridge to be repaired. What's another interesting twist in this case is that the bridge was owned by the Queensland government. The maintenance was done by the Queensland government. Everything in this case involves the Queensland government in terms of obligations and liabilities. But put that aside for the moment. The bridge had been built, it had been damaged, it needed to be repaired. A government repair crew came in. They did have some private sector contractors assisting, and they started to repair the bridge. Now, in order to repair the bridge, they had to take off that asbestos sheeting, which meant cutting the sheeting, grinding the sheeting, chiselling the sheeting, and pulling it all off. At the time, they didn't know it was asbestos, and to put the best possible case for the site supervisor, he thought that because the bridge was constructed in 1980, it was late enough that asbestos sheeting would not have been used. But he didn't actually check. Mm-hmm. Some of the workers were pretty cluey on asbestos, and they got fragments of the asbestos, and they took it to the supervisor and said, "We think this is asbestos. We want you to check it." And the supervisor took a bag of asbestos off them and undertook to have the asbestos sheeting tested. Now, the workers were very concerned because of the amount of dust they were producing about the possibility of asbestos, and every day they would go back to the supervisor and say, "Have you had that asbestos? Have you had those fragments tested yet?" Anyway, the supervisor ended up saying, "Yes, I have had the fragments tested, and there was no asbestos." It was a complete lie. He had not done anything to have the sheeting tested. So they kept on working. The workers still felt uncomfortable because they thought that the sheeting looked like asbestos. And the supervisor went on leave. And whilst the supervisor was on leave, the workers took the sheeting to the acting supervisor and said, "We think this is asbestos, can you get it tested?" So the acting supervisor had the sheeting tested, and then within 24 hours they knew that it was asbestos sheeting.
So it only took 24 hours
to check.
Yeah.
And then after that everything blew up. Now, as a result of that incident, the supervisor was criminally charged. The Queensland government didn't financially support him as far as I can tell, and he had to engage his own lawyers, which would have been costly, to represent him, and he ended up being convicted and fined. He received if my memory serves me correctly, he's received a fine of $20,000. The Department of Transport and Main Roads was also prosecuted, and if my memory serves me correctly, it got a fine of, I think, $170,000. Very interesting case. It's one of the few cases on where a worker has been charged and convicted.
Yeah.